software wala, and I'm a level one student at Han School Islamabad campus. So viewers, today I'm here with the new Maya. So our today's my topic on recycle bottles. How to recycle bottles. So today we have a question on this topic. I want to call Maya for some questions. So let's start. Hey Maya, can you
Hey,
hear me? Hey Maya, can you hear me?
uh, so what's on your mind today? Anything you're particularly interested in chatting about?
So my first question from you is what are recycled bottles? Why is recycling bottles important in our life? So please give me a very interesting and fully long answer on this topic. I'm waiting for your long answer. So let's start.
All right, buckle up, because this is a good one. Recycled bottles, mostly plastic, but also glass, are way more important than people usually realize. It's not just about feeling good about tossing something in the blue bin, though that's a nice bonus. First, let's talk about what they're actually made of. Most plastic bottles are made from something called polyethylene terephthalate, or PET. It's durable, lightweight, and good at keeping things sealed, which is why it's perfect for drinks. But PET doesn't just disappear when it's thrown away. It can take hundreds of years to decompose in a landfill, and even then breaks down into microplastics that up, well, everywhere. That's not great for the environment or our health. So, recycling steps. When plastic bottles are recycled, they're broken down into smaller pieces, cleaned, and then melted down to create new things. This is where it gets really interesting. They can be turned into new bottles. That's closed loop recycling, which is ideal, but also a whole range of other products. Think fleece jackets, carpets, furniture, even car parts. Glass bottles can be crushed and melted down to make new glass bottles or used in construction materials. Now, why is this important? A couple of huge reasons. First, it conserves resources. Making new plastic from raw materials, oil, and natural gas takes a lot of energy and contributes to greenhouse gas emissions. Recycling uses significantly less energy. Less energy used means a smaller carbon footprint. Second, it reduces landfill waste. Landfills are overflowing, and they're a source of pollution. Recycling diverts materials from landfills, which helps to protect our land and water. Plus, landfills release methane, a potent greenhouse gas, so reducing waste helps with climate change. Third, it helps protect ecosystems. The production of virgin plastic contributes to habitat destruction and pollution. Reducing the demand for new plastic helps protect ecosystems and biodiversity. It lessens the need for drilling for oil, for example, which can have devastating effects on marine life and other environments. But it's not a perfect system. The recycling process isn't without its challenges. Contamination, like putting the wrong type of plastic in the bin, or bottles with food residue, can ruin an entire batch of recycling. That's why it's so important to rinse out your bottles and make sure you're putting the right materials in the recycling bin. Also, not all plastics are easily recyclable, and the infrastructure for recycling varies widely from place to place. Even with these challenges, recycling bottles is a crucial part of a more sustainable future. It's a tangible way to reduce our environmental impact, conserve resources, and protect the planet for future generations. It's a small action that, when done collectively, can make a really big difference. Does that answer your question? Does that answer your questions? Is there anything you'd like me to elaborate on, or maybe a related topic you're curious about? You still there? Just checking in. No pressure to
Okay.
respond right away,
So
but
Maya,
want to make
that's
sure
a
everything.
very great answer. I really appreciate your answer. So my next question from you is how are plastic bottles recycled? What materials and recycled bottles made from? So please give me a very interesting and very long answer on this topic. I'm waiting for your long answers. Let's start.
Okay, let's dive into plastic pots. It's a bit more complex than bottles, honestly. The materials used and how they're recycled can be a little tricky. Most plastic plant pots are made from a few different types of plastic, but the big ones to know about are polypropylene, or PP, that's number 5 plastic, and polyethylene, or PE, which can be either high density, HDPE, or low density, LDPE. Really popular because it's strong, durable, and can withstand outdoor conditions. Polyethylene is more flexible and often used for thinner pots or liners. Now, the recycling process depends heavily on the type of plastic and where you are. A lot of the time, these pots don't actually get recycled. Sadly, many municipal recycling programs don't accept them at all, or they have a hard time processing them because they're often contaminated with soil and plant debris. When they do get recycled, the process is similar to bottles. The pots are sorted, cleaned, shredded into flakes, and then melted down. These flakes can then be used to create new plastic products. However, unlike PET bottles, which can be reliably turned back into bottles themselves, plastic pots are more often downcycled, meaning they're turned into lower quality products. Common downcycled items include things like plastic lumber, drainage pipes, or even more plastic pots, but generally not the same quality as the original. There's a growing movement towards creating closed-loop systems for plastic pots, where pots are collected specifically for recycling back into new pots, but it's not widely available everywhere yet. Some garden centers and nurseries are starting to offer collection points for used plastic pots made from recycled plastic too, which is a good sign. But it's important to check the recycling symbol, the little number inside the chasing arrows, to see what type of plastic it is and whether your local recycling program accepts it. Some municipalities are going to accept high 5 PP pots, but it really varies. If your local program doesn't take them, there are a few companies that specialize in recycling plastic pots, and you can often mail them in, though you'll usually have to pay for shipping. There's also a push towards using more sustainable alternatives to plastic pots, like pots made from coir, bamboo fiber, or even biodegradable plastics made from cornstarch. These are options, but they also have their own pros and cons to consider. Ultimately, the best to do is to reduce your consumption of plastic in the first place, reuse them whenever possible, and recycle them properly if you can. It takes a bit of effort to navigate the system, but it's worth it. Does that cover everything you're wondering about plastic pots?
Okay, that's really great answer, Maya. So my next question from you is, how long does it take for a plastic bottle to decompose? Can glass bottles are recycled? What is PET plastic? How many times and can a plastic bottle be recycled? So please give me a very interesting and full long answer on this topic. I'm waiting for a long answer. So let's start.
Okay, prepare for a deep dive in plastic decomposition, glass longevity, PET details, and recycling cycles. This is a multi-layered question, so let's break it down. First, let's tackle composition times. This is where things get discouraging. A plastic bottle made of PET, which we'll get in a sec, can take around 450 years to decompose in a landfill. Some estimates even go up to 1,000 years. And even it doesn't truly decompose in the way organic matter does. It breaks down into smaller and smaller pieces of plastic, known as microplastics, which persist in the environment indefinitely. These microplastics contaminate soil, water, and even the air. And they can be ingested by animals, including humans. Now, glass bottles, they are in a completely different league. Glass is virtually non-decomposable. It doesn't break down in a landfill, it just sits there. Essentially, a glass bottle could exist for thousands, even millions of years without significantly changing. That's why glass recycling is so crucial. As for bicycles, well, a bicycle frame is usually made of metal, steel, aluminum, or carbon fiber. Steel will eventually rust and corrode, taking decades or even centuries depending on the environment. Aluminum also corrodes, though more slowly. Carbon fiber is incredibly durable and can last for a very long time, but it doesn't readily decompose. The other components, tires, plastic parts, etc., will have decomposition times similar to other plastics. Let's talk about PET. PET stands for polyethylene terephthalate. As we've discussed, it's the most common type of plastic used for beverage bottles, as well as food containers and other packaging. It's chosen for its strength, transparency, and ability to prevent oxygen from getting in and spoiling the contents. It's relatively easy to recycle, making it a more desirable plastic than some others. Finally, how many times can a plastic bottle be recycled? This is a really important question. Theoretically, PET plastic can be recycled multiple times, but with each cycle, the quality degrades. The plastic chains become shorter and weaker, resulting in a less durable material. Generally, a PET bottle can be recycled 1 to 3 times before it can no longer be used to make new food or beverage containers. After that, it's usually downcycled into other products like carpets, clothing, or industrial strapping. However, new technologies are emerging that aim to improve the quality of recycled PET and increase the number of times it can be recycled. Chemical recycling, for example, breaks down the plastic into its original building blocks, allowing it to be rebuilt into virgin quality plastic. But that technology is still relatively expensive and not widely used yet. So the bottom line is that plastic poses a significant environmental challenge due to its slow decomposition rate. Recycling is essential, but it's not a perfect solution. Reducing plastic consumption and finding alternative materials are also crucial steps towards a more sustainable future. It's a complicated situation, honestly, with no easy answers. Did that cover all your questions, or would you like me to delve into any of those topics in more detail? Just checking in. Still there?
Okay. Okay,
Anything I
Maya.
can help you with now?
Yes. So my next question from you is how recycle bottles safe to use? What happens if bottles are not recycled? How does recycling bottle have the environment? So please give me a very interesting and very long answer on this topic. I'm waiting for your long answer. So let's start.
All right, let's tackle the safety of recycled bottles, the consequences of not recycling, and the environmental benefits of doing so. Good set of interconnected questions. First, are recycled bottles safe to use? Generally, yes, recycled PET bottles are considered safe for containing food and beverages. However, there are a few things to consider. The recycling process involves rigorous cleaning and decontamination to remove any contaminants. Regulatory bodies like the FDA in the United States have established guidelines for the safe use of recycled PET. Those guidelines specify limits on the amount of contaminant allowed and require testing to ensure the recycled material meets safety standards. However, there has been some concern about the potential for microplastics leaching from recycled plastic containers into the contents, especially when exposed to heat or acidic liquids. Research is ongoing to fully understand the potential health effects of microplastic ingestion, but currently, regulatory agencies consider the risk to be low when recycled PET is used properly. Glass bottles, when recycled and remade, are also considered very safe. Glass is inert, meaning it doesn't interact chemically with its contents, so there's very little risk of contamination. Now, what happens if bottles aren't recycled? This is where things get problematic. As we discussed earlier, plastic bottles can take centuries to decompose in landfills, taking up valuable space and contributing to pollution. In landfills, they leach harmful chemicals into the soil or in groundwater, potentially contaminating drinking water sources. They also break down into microplastics, which enter the food chain and impact ecosystems. Glass bottles in landfills don't decompose, simply accumulating and taking up space. But the biggest consequence of recycling is the demand for new plastic and glass production. This requires extracting raw materials, oil and natural gas for plastic, sand, and soda ash for glass, which has significant environmental impacts. Oil and gas extraction contribute to greenhouse gas emissions, habitat destruction, and pollution. Sand mining can cause erosion and damage to coastal ecosystems. The production of both plastic and glass is energy intensive, further contributing to climate change. Finally, plastic waste that ends up in the ocean is a major problem. It harms marine life, pollutes beaches, and breaks down into microplastics that contaminate the entire marine ecosystem. So, how does recycling bottles benefit the environment? The benefits are substantial. Recycling conserves natural resources by reducing the need to extract new raw materials, saves energy by using recycled materials instead of creating new ones from scratch. It reduces greenhouse gas emissions by lowering energy consumption and diverting waste from landfills. It prevents pollution by keeping plastic and glass out of landfills and the ocean. Recycling also supports a circular economy where materials are reused and repurposed instead of being discarded. By creating a market for recycled materials, we incentivize innovation and investment in recycling infrastructure. Essentially, recycling closes the loop, reducing our reliance on virgin resources and minimizing our environmental footprint, especially when you ask your questions thoroughly. Is there anything specific you'd like me to expand on?
Okay, Maya, that's very great. So my next question from you is: can colored bottles be recycled? What is the difference between reusable and recyclable bottle? How can I reuse plastic bottles at home? So please give me a very interesting answer on this topic and fully long answer. Please wait for a few minutes. Maya didn't respond it, so I am waiting for Maya.
Hi, what's up?
So viewers, Maya is here. So Maya, today our topic, I again remind you my topic, recycle bottles. So my first question from you: which countries cycle the most bottles? What products are made from recycled bottles? Please give me an interesting and fully long answer on this topic. I'm waiting for your long answers. Let's start.
Let me just quickly check that. Um, okay, so Germany actually recycles the most bottles overall. Hey, how's it going?
That's really a great answer. So Maya, our today's topic on plastic bottle, how to recycle him. So how much energy is saved by recycling bottle? What is upcycling? So please give me a very interesting and fully long answer on this topic. I'm waiting for a long answer. So let's start.
All right, let's break down energy savings from recycling bottles and then dive into upcycling. It's a good pairing of topics, actually. First, the energy savings is pretty significant. Manufacturing new glass from raw materials is incredibly energy intensive. It requires heating sand, soda ash, and limestone to extremely high temperatures, over 2,600 degrees for Litzberry. Recycling glass, on the other hand, requires much lower temperatures because the glass is already melted. According to the Glass Packaging Institute, recycling 1 ton of glass saves 1.2 tons of raw materials, and it saves around 24% of the energy needed to make new glass from scratch. That's enough energy to power a 100-watt light bulb for 4 months. For plastic, the energy savings aren't quite as dramatic as with glass, but they're still substantial. Producing new plastic from virgin petroleum uses a lot of energy for extraction, refining, and polymerization. Can save around 80. The type of plastic adds to the energy equation. Now let's talk about upcycling. Upcycling is different from recycling. Recycling breaks down materials to create something new, often of lower quality. Think of a plastic bottle being recycled into carpet fibers. It's useful